I believe that we are up to the top of Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. The last thing we learned was how there's a shaila if Golus is mechaper on half of the Averis, if Golus is mechaper on three punishments, Cherev, Rov, and Dever, or if Golus is mechaper on everything. And the Gemara ended up bringing a raya from, even though Navi told Yechanya that his children will never have any success in Malchus after he was sent to Golus, after he was sent down to Babel by Nebuchadnezzar. In fact, his son, who was called Zerubbabel and Shlosliel, was actually the Novi Nehemiah ben Chakalia, who was the leader of Klal Yisrael, and he brought Klal Yisrael back to the second base of Mikdash. So we are on the third line from the top on Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. Yehuda v'Chizkiah b'nei Rab Chia Havu. Yehuda and Chizkiah were the children of Rabbi Chia. Have a Yosy b'Sudasa kamei Rebbe. They were sitting in a Suda in front of Rebbe. They weren't speaking, they weren't saying anything. Amalahu agavru chamra adardaki. Why don't you serve some wine to these young rebbeim? Kehechi the lamer milsa. This way it will open them up a little bit and they'll say something. So even the Ifsum, once they had a little bit to drink, of course they became less inhibited and they were talking. Kiven the Ifsum paschu v'amru ein ben David ba Mashiach will not come ad sheyichlu shnei botei aves b'Yisrael, until two great families in Klal Yisrael will be eliminated. Ve'elohein Rosh Goylish of Bavel, which was Rebbe, so that was a highly offensive comment made toward Rebbe, and V'nasi Yishav Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, V'hayu l'mikdash. When the Mashiach comes, he's going to hasten. In order that Mashiach should come, it's going to hasten a Even Negaf, a stone that someone trips over, meaning it's going to destroy one family, Ulatur Michshal, which is also a stone that people trip over. He will be a tripping stone, meaning he's going to hurt L'shnei Batei Yisrael, to two great families of Klal Yisrael. So the Navi said that the two great families of Klal Yisrael are going to have to go down and be destroyed before Mashiach will come. This is in Yeshaya. So that this was very offensive to Rebbe. Omalem, so Rebbe said, Banai, my dear children, Koitzim atem matilin li beinai. Are you putting thorns in my eyes? How you talking? It's inappropriate and disrespectful that you should say that to me. So Reb Chia, the father of these two people, wanted to stand up for them and defend them. Amalei Reb Chia, Rebbe al yer beinach. You shouldn't feel bad that my children are speaking so openly and in an uninhibited fashion. Because yayin nitein b'shiv moisiyos. The word yayin is gematria 70. V'soid nitein b'shiv moisiyos, and the word soid is gematria 70. Nichnas yayin yotzasoid. They're going to say things that are normally things that wouldn't be shared publicly. Amar Chia Amar Ukva Amar Lo Amar Chista. Dorish Mori Bamar. Ma'idich Siv. It says V'yishkei Hashem al Rava Yiviyeh Aleinu Kitadek Hashem Elokeinu. Hashem was diligent to bring us the bad quickly. Why? Because he's a tzaddik. Frank the more we should have tzaddik Hashem, but Yishkoid Hashem al Arab Yivei Aleinu. Zoktimar in yes, because tzedakah asa Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Hakadosh Baruch Hu did a favor to Klal Yisrael that he brought the Golus 2 years before it was scheduled, and the Gemara is going to make a cheshbon that Klal Yisrael were supposed to be in Eretz Yisrael for 852 years. And Rashi makes a cheshbon that it was 890 years from when they left Mitzrayim until they got into Golus after the first base of Mikdash. That was 890. 40 years of the being in the Midbar brought it to 850. So Klal Yisrael were in Eretz Yisrael for 850 years before they were thrown out of Eretz Yisrael. They were really supposed to be there for 852 years. And those 2 years that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hastened the Golus was for a very important reason. And Rashi quotes is because it says originally Klal Yisrael was supposed to be in Israel for the amount of years that's represented by the gematria of Vinoshantem Ba'aretz. You're going to be in the land, and that's 852 years. But Hashem took them out 2 years earlier out of Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because after the pasuk says you'll be in Eretz Yisrael for 852 years, the next pasuk says if you do Averis, Ki Abe Ta'abdun Maher V'Yishame Tishamedun. So Hashem didn't want to click that trigger that would lead to the Abe Ta'abdun and the Hishame Tishamedun. So therefore Hashem said, you know what? Let's get out of Eretz Yisrael before the Vinashantem, and that will bypass the destruction of the next pasuk. So let's see the cheshbon. Zokt Gemara shehiklim golus Tzidkiyo. He made the golus of Tzidkiyo go earlier. The oid golus Yechanya kayemes, and it was still during the golus of Yechanya. Tichsiv bei begolus Yechanya. It says regarding the golus of Yechanya, Hacherish from Miskar. These were the big Talmid Chachamim. Elaf, there was 1,000 people that went into golus with Yechanya. Zokt Gemara, Cherish means a Talmid Chacham Kivan Shapoischin. When they start talking, everyone becomes like deaf. Rashi's poischin b'Torah kicharoshim keribei hacheresh. So they made everybody silent when they spoke because their voices were accepted and listened to in revere by everybody. Miskar kivan shesogrin b'alacha. Once they sealed halacha, they paschin. There's no more question. Shuv ein poischin. The kamahayu elef. There were 1,000 Talmidei Chachamim that went into Golus together with Yechanya. Ula Amar shehiktim shtei shonim levinay shantem. So Ula says that not that the goals of Tzidkiya overlapped the goals of the Chanya, but what it was is they left Eretz Yisrael. They were thrown out of Eretz Yisrael 2 years before Vinay Shantem, which is the gematria of 852. Amar Abacha Bar Yaakov Shmamina. You know what you see from here? Mehera Demar Alma, because the Torah says after the Vinashantem, it'll be Abi to Abdun Maher. So how long does it take to be Maher? Tamni Meya B'cham train Habe. You see, by the Rebbeinu Shalom, Maher means 852. My wife asked me, please take out the garbage quickly. I said, of course I'll take it out quickly. And then a week later, she said, you didn't take it out? I said, what do you mean Maher, according to the Rebbeinu Shalom, is 852 years? I'm way early. Don't worry about it. Zok Gemara, Lefichach, Tanu Rabbanon. Adam Yechidi never. A person was created by himself. In other words, Adam was created an Adam by himself. Umipneima. Why? Shalo Yehu Aminu Ma'imrim Harbe Rishuyis B'Shamayim. Can you imagine if 10 men would have been created at the same time? People would have said, yeah, the 10 gods put out their best creation. So therefore, if there's only one, so it means there's one Hashem. It's so you shouldn't be able to blame any of your minus or chesroinus on DNA. What do you want from us? Now that we all come from the same Adam, we all have the same lineage, we all have the same yichus, you cannot use that as a reason why you might be predisposed to do good or bad. It's for honor. People shouldn't say, I have better yichus than you. I have better yichus than you. We all have the same yichus. We all come from the same person. Uma achshav. So the question is, did it help? The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it, that we were created by ourselves, did it solve these problems? Zok Gemara, uma achshav, sheniver yachid. Still miskaris. We're still fighting. Families are feeling superior over other people. Nivru Shnayim, could you imagine how much worse it would have been if our origins were different? Allah has come and become. Do you know why Hashem created us all the same? Because of Gazlonim and Chamsonim. And Rashi says, what does that mean? Sheyomru kar kazeh livnei avinu harishon hoisa v'loi livnei avichem. Gazlonim will say that we have a right to take this land because it wasn't your grandfather, it was my grandfather. So that we were created from one person, there's still an issue. People still steal. al achas kama v'kam. So again, hagazlonim v'chamsonim, Rashi teaches sheyoimru, they'll say kar kazeh livnei avinu harishain haisa v'loy livnei avichem. If there were multiple fathers, I'll say this always came from my father, not your father. But now that we all come from the same place, you can't possibly make an argument that it didn't come from my father. Yes, you might say that it came to your side, but at least you won't say it came from a completely different place. To show the Gedula of the Rebbeinu Shalom, that even though he made so many with the same Matbeah, each person has their own uniqueness and individuality. Tanu Rabbanan. A person who makes one form and he makes many matbeos with it, they'll all be identical. He makes everybody with the same form as Adam Rishon, and one will not be comparable to the other. Everyone is unique. Shenemar tishapek kachomer choisam, and this is referring to when Mashiach comes. Rashi says, his form turns back to earth, and then the siatsu kemoy levush, and it'll come back on like a levush, like a beged betchias hamesim. So Rashi midikari lechoisem, since it's the form of a person is referred to by the pasuk as a choisem, shemamina bechoisem tvuim, we are formed in a form. So why is it that all of our faces don't look alike? This is a fascinating. A person shouldn't see a beautiful dira or a beautiful woman. This way, if all the women look alike, everyone will say, that's my wife. As Rashi says, the Yimna Rishoyim Orim cluster ponov, their face. Since they're different, it holds back from the Rishoyim to be able to take other people's wives. That'll break his strong arming, which is really quite fascinating. And the reason why it's quite fascinating to me is, why would the person want somebody else's wife if his wife looks identical? It just goes to show the koich of the Yetzer Hara. If everyone looked identical, why would you want somebody else's wife? You have your wife, which is exactly the same. So just the Yetzer Hara. Tanya Hayir Ab Meir Eimer. There are three ways in which people are different from their friends. The koil, their voices. You could recognize someone by his voice, but marry the way they look, uvadas, and with their mental aptitude. The koil uvamara, why mishum erva? This way, there won't be a problem of someone mixing up somebody else, misidentifying somebody else to be his wife. Say if it's light and he can see her face, say if it's dark and he can hear her voice, he would be able to make that distinction. Uvadas mipnei agazlonim v'chamsonim. Das, because of Galgzon Chansonim. What does that mean? So Rashi, if I know what you're thinking, if we all think alike, and I know what you're thinking, so then I know where you would hide your things, where you would put your things. Since we all think differently, I can't figure out your passwords. I can't figure out what you do because we all think differently. If our voices are all different, did Leah and Rachel have exactly the same voice? Is that why Yaakov wasn't able to tell, or were they just not talking? Could be they got married; they were not on speaking terms, so that's why he didn't know who she was. I'm not sure. Does anybody ask that question? Why is it that Yaakov couldn't tell that it was Leah because of her voice? Never know. Tanu Rabbanan. Adam Nivra, the Erev Shabbos. A person was created on Erev Shabbos. Why was a person created on Erev Shabbos? If Adam would have been created earlier in the week, people would have said, Minim, Apikorsa would have said that the man helped the Kadosh Baruch Hu create the rest of the Bria. So that's why he was created after everything was all done. That's also why I always offer to help my wife wash the dishes after they're all packed away. Oh, I'm late. Davar acher, she'im tazuach dai te'olov. If he tries to become a balgaiv and think he's so great, I'm going to tell him, don't be so proud of yourself. The smallest insect was created, preceded you in the Ma'aseh Bereshis. Davar acher, kadei sheyichnas lemitzvah miyad. So the moment he was born, he was able to go right into the mitzvah of Shabbos Kodesh. Davar acher, kadei sheyichnas l'suda miyad. So as soon as he would be born, there would be a suda ready for him. Sheyimtza akoil muchan v'yoichel masher yachputz. Because Baruch Hu created the whole world, so when Adam would come to the face of the earth, everything would be ready for him. Mashal l'malach masav adam. Shabana Palter, and he built a beautiful palace, v'shich l'lan, and he set it up fully with whatever it would need, and there's Suda, and he made a big Suda. The Achra Hichlas Orchim. When do the guests come? After everything's set up and ready to go. They don't come, no one's asked to come 2 hours early to the wedding to help set up. Shenemar, Chachmas, Bonsa, Boisa. Chachma built the house. Chatzva Amudeh Shiva. Carved out, chiseled out from rock 7 foundations, 7 posts. Tavcha, I'm not pronouncing it right. Whatever needed to be shechted in preparation for the Suda. Tivcha, I think it's what it is. It's both Tivcha. They shechted the food that had to be shechted. Moschayena, they diluted the wine that had to be diluted. Af Orcha Shulchana, they also set the table. Shulcha Nairisaha Tikra Algape Mireme Kras, which is the end of the pasuk. So the Gemara Darshan is not the whole pasuk. Chachmas Bonsa Beisa, Chachma built the house. Zumi does it Shalak Kadosh Baruch Hu Shabari as Kol Olam Kuloi B'Chach. Chatzva Amudeh Shiva Elu Shiva Shemei Bereshis. The 7 foundations were the 7 days of creation. Tivcha Tavcha Moscha Yena Av Archa Shulchana Elu Yamim Unaharois. These are the sources of water in the world. V'chol Tzarchei Olam, and all the other needs that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created that were requirements for the world to develop. Shulchan Nairasa Tikra. What does that mean? Who are the Nairis, the youth that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent? The Adam v'Chava. Where were they sent? Al Gape Miroi Mekras, on the heights of the mount of the cities they're way up high. Rabbi Barchana Rami, he asked the stira. Ksiv Al Gape, meaning they were up high on the summit. Uchsiv Al Kisei, they were merely sitting on a chair which is lower. Betchila Al Gape, first when the world was created, they were way up high. Adam. After the Chet, Al Kisei, they were lowered down to a Kisei. Taisus actually learns at Punk Fakert that a Kisei is greater than Gape, so he says that. Zok Gemara, Mi Pesi Yosser Heina. Rashi says this pasuk was right after this pasuk that describes the creation of the world. So the question is, Mi Pasai Lazeh, who was the one who fooled Adam Arishon that he should eat from the Eitz Hadas? Mi Pasi Yosser Heina. Chasar Leiv. It was a Chasar Leiv. Amar Lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mi Pasai Lazeh. You know what that is? That's Isha. His wife got him to eat from the Eitz Hadas. Amar Lo, Isha Amar Lo, his wife told him to eat from the Eitz Hadas. Tachsiv, Noyef Isha Chasar Leiv. So you see that Chasar Leiv is referring to an Isha. There are those who ask, Noyef Isha Chasar Leiv, the Mashas, Noyef Isha Chasar Leiv, that means someone who's Noyef with the Isha, he is the Chasar Leiv. So it's not going on the Isha being the Chasar Leiv, it's going on the person that was Mezana with her, who's the Chasar Leiv. So, yes, but I think he's Masber that she made that he should be Chasar Leiv. Tanya, Hayra Beir Omer, Adam Arishon, Mikol HaOlam Kuloi, Hutzpar Afrei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't just take the earth that was right there and form Adam Arishon, he actually gathered earth from all the different places of the globe. Shenemar, Golmi, my form, Ro Einecha. And Rashi says it means Mikol Mara Einecha de Glamti. Adam said, I was pieced together the entire scope of vision that the Rebbeinu Shalom has. Behind the Rebbeinu Shalom scope of vision is everywhere. Like it says in Zechariah, Einei Hashem Heima Mishaytin B'chol Haaretz. So if it's from Ro'ei Necha, means it was from all the earth of the land. Amar Boishim Shmei Derav, Adam Arishon, Gufay mi Bavel. His guf was from Bavel, which is a little lower than Eretz Yisrael. V'roisham Eretz Yisrael, and the head was formed from earth of Eretz Yisrael. Ve'ivarav, and there's Ivarim which are less integral. Is Mishar Aratzois from the other lands. The Igvoisov and Igvoisov is touched as Omer of Acham the Akra the Agma. That's in Babel will Amuk Moed. Igvoisov I thought means that's what I thought it meant. I just didn't want to articulate that. Igvoisov means his seat cushion. His seat cushion. Omer B'Yochanan Bar Chanina. Yeah. Shteim Esrei Shos Have Hayoim. The day is 12 hours. Let's talk about how Adam Arishon was created in the 12 hours of the seventh day of creation, of the sixth day of creation. Shari Shaina Hutzbar Afre. The first hour, the earth was gathered together from the different places that he was going to be formed out of. Shni Nasa Goylem. In the second year, he was formed into a Goylem. Shlishis Nimktechu Evarim. That's when his Evarim developed of veins and arteries and sinews and muscles. Revius, the fourth hour, Nizra Kabay Neshama, that's when he became alive. Chamishis, Amad al Raglov. Shishis, Kara Shemois, he established names for all of the Bria. Shavius, the seventh hour, Nizdav Galoi Chava. Sheminis, so first they got to know, Hashem made Chava. Then, the first hour, Sheminis Alulamita, the seventh, and the eighth hour, right after they met, they jumped right into bed. And then, Shnayim, the two of them went into bed, the Yardu, and the Yardu Arba, and four people came out, meaning right away, Cain and Hevel were born. You didn't have to wait 9 months in those days. It was instant. What? What? That Cain and Hevel, yeah, that's right. Okay, Chias, Nitztave Shleilachal B'Neilam. 9th hour, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, don't eat from the Tzedas. Asir Sarach, he was over, and he ate. Achaz Asrei Nida, and that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu judged him. Shtei Mesrei, Nitrad V'Halach, he was picked up and thrown out of Gan Eden. That was a fast. It's like marriage. The first day you're in paradise, and then you wake up and get thrown out. Shenemar, Adam Bikar Bal Yolin. A person is merely visiting, he's not staying overnight. As Rashi says, Bal Yolin Lina Salayla. He didn't even stay overnight in Gan Eden. Amar Rami Bar Chama, Ein Chayira Shoyletes Ba'Adam. A Chayira will not attack a person, Elim Kei Nidma Loike Behema, unless the Chayira perceives that this person is like a behema, meaning he loses his special look of a human that one loses through chet. Shenemar nimshal kebehemis nidlu. It says Adam b'kar bal yol, and the person won't stay. Adam didn't stay in Gan Eden overnight. Nimshal kebehemis nidlu, and he became like a behema. He lost his kedusha from doing the avera, and because of that, he was more susceptible to attack from animals. Okay. Zog to Gemara weiter. Shah b'soif arami simin. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. B'shah shabike shakadosh baruch hu liberates Adam, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create man. Bara kat achash al malachi ashur. He first created a pair of malachim to consult with them. Amar lehem ritzonchem nasa Adam etzalmenu. Amar lefanav, no way. Rebbeinu shalom ma ma'asav. Amar led kach v'kach ma'asav. This is the behavior of a person. Amar leval told him Rebbeinu shalom ma enosh kisis kerenu. What is a man that we should even mention him? Uben adam kisif kedenu. I don't want that. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu did hoishid etzboi ketana b'nein. He put a small finger in between the two malachim. V'sarfam, and they were both burnt up. V'chein kat shniya, and then the second set. But kat shlishis, after seeing that two sets of malachim were blown up, I guess they were going to be a little bit more careful in their opinion. Amul fun of Rebbeinu shalom. Rishonim shamul l'chanacha maha ilu. Didn't help. Kala olam kulu shalach. The whole world is yours. Kol ma she'ata roitza lasos b'olam chasei. You could do whatever you want. Kivon shegia lan shidor mabel. I guess they were looking at mankind, and when they reached the Dor Mabel, then shidor floga shemasei mikol kolim. Their ma'asim are completely mikulkul. Amul lefanav Rebbeinu Shloila lo yafor amur Rishonim lefanacha. The earlier Malachim had a good point. Man deteriorated to the level of total corruption. Amul lahen v'yatzikna anihu v'atzev ani espoil. I will be soivel my people. I will tolerate my people all the time. Azikna Rashish kol yom avaspilem. I will be soivel. I will carry my people, even though they do bad. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amarav. Adam Rishon misoifa olam batsoifa chaya. He was so large that he reached from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Shenemar liminayoy asher bara lakim adam al oretz ulemitzeh shemayim v'at ktzeh shemayim. Kivin shesarach. Once Adam Rishon did an avera, Hashem cut him down to size. Hiniach Hakadosh Baruch Hu yadoi olav umiatoi, and he became smaller. Shenemar achar v'kedem tartani. I was originally created to go from front to back to fill up everything, but then v'tashkes alai kapech. Amar b'lazar Adam Rishon min haaretz ad l'rekiah hayesh shenemar l'minayim asher bara lakim Adam al haaretz u'lemitzeh shemayim atkei shemayim, and kivin shesarach hiniach Hakadosh Baruch Hu olav yadoi olav umiatoi. Shenemar achar v'kedem tartani. Kasher kroyadami, because one pasuk says from the earth up to the shemayim, and the other one says kedem va'achar, from right to left, from east to west. So which one is it? So the same distance it is from the far east to the far west. That's the same distance from the earth to shemayim. He spoke Aramaic. Shenemar, he said, "V'li ma yakru reyecha kel," and that is an Aramaic. Yakru is Aramaic. Rashi says, what was he saying over here? V'li ma yakru reyecha kel, basar golmi roenecha. After Adam Rishon said the golmi roenecha, it says this pasuk will be Yitziras Adam Medaber. It's talking about the creation of man. So he said, "V'li ma yakru reyecha." What's more important to me than the Rebbeinu Shloim? But he used the word yakru, which is an Aramaic term. Adam Sefer Toilus Adam Malamed Sharei Kadosh Baruch Hu Dor V'Dor Shav Kadosh Baruch Hu Shel Adam Rishon. Every generation and its Darshanim Dor V'Chachamav. Every generation its Chachamim. Kivan Shegil Dor Shel Rabbi Akiva Samach. When Adam Rishon reached the Dor of Rabbi Akiva, he became happy. Samach b'Torah, he was very happy with the Torah that Rabbi Akiva taught, but was very hurt by the horrible demise that Rabbi Akiva had. Amar, he said, "V'li ma yakru reyecha." To me, they're so dear. You're reyecha like Akiva, like Rabbi Akiva. Amar b'Yehuda Amarav, Adam Rishon minhaya. Adam Rishon is a shtickle apikarius. Shedemar vayikra Hashem Elokim el ha'adam. What does ayeka mean? Ayin not a lipcha. Where did your heart turn to? In other words, your heart turned away from me. He pulled back his arla to re-establish the arla. That means he was born to bris. It says over here, Adam avru bris. As berisi hefar, and by as berisi hefar, it's referring to someone who is Moishech or Losai. Rav Nachman Amar, Kaifer Bikr Haya. Adam was a Kaifer Bikr, Ksefhacha, Avru Bris, Uksefhasam, V'Amar Al Asher Ozvu as Bris Hashem Alekei Havosa. So you see that he was referred to as an Apikar, a Kaifer Bikr. Tanan Asim, Rabbi Lezer Omer, have a shokad lil moy Torah. You should be diligent to learn Torah, and V'da Masha Toshav Lapikaris. And you need to be prepared so that you could answer an Apikaris. The only apikaris that you should engage to prove him wrong with arguments is a goy. They know too much, and you'll never succeed in convincing them of everything. And if anything, he will outsmart you. So stay away from him. The pocket fade, they're much worse. anytime Apikursim tried to bring a eye from a pasuk that there's more than one Rebbeinu Shalom, Chuvasam Betidon, in that same pasuk or the nearby pasuk will prove them wrong. For instance, they like making a big deal of Nasa Adam B'Tzalmenu. So you see, B'Tzalmenu, there are many gods. Right away it says afterwards, Vayevorach Elokim as Adam B'Tzalmoi, you see there's only one HaKadosh Baruch. Or another pasuk where they could be confused. Hava nerdo neval sham sefasam. This is Vayerd Hashem Loshen Yochid Liris Esair Besamigdal. It says Kisham Nigru Ela Halakim Loshen Rabim. The pasuk says right after Lakel Ha'ina Oisi B'Yom Tzarasi. It says Kimi Goy Gadol Asher Lo Yalakim Karoivim Elov Kashem Elakenu B'Chol Kareinu Elov, which sounds like Rabim. And for that it says Umika Amcha Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz Asher Halchu Elakim Liptois Loy La'am. The pasuk in the Nehil says Adi Carson Ramov, until to the chairs in plural, the chairs are prepared for the Rebbeinu Shalom. 2 chairs means 2 gods. The Atik Yoimin Yosef, but the Rebbeinu Shalom will sit there. Loshen Yochid. So again, the pasuk starts off with Loshen Rab and goes to Loshen Yochid. Fragt Gemara, Hanach Alamali. So Lamaisa, why do the Psukim start off with Loshen Rab, and why are they misleading? Zok Amar Kedab Yochanan. The Amar Yochanan Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oisa Davar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do anything. Elam Ke Nimlach BePamal Yoshalmala, before he consults with the Pamal Yoshalmala. Shenemar B'Gzeiras Irin Piskama, a Gzeira of multiples. Hashem will decree, meaning he consults. Uva Maimer Kedishin She'ilta, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks the Kedishin. Zok Gemara, all of these psukim can be explained the way that Hashem consulted, but Avada Hashem is Achar Shmeich, except for one. Hatei Nechpuli, Adi Carson Rama of Ma'ik Lemeimer. That's talking about preparing 2 chairs for Hashem. Sure, Hashem might consult with Malachim, but why would there be a second chair? That you cannot explain away, that it's just because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is consulting with the Pamal Yishalmayim. Zok Gemara, you're right. The 2 chairs there are Echad Loi ve'Echad LeDavid. One is for him and one is for David HaMelech. The Tanya, Echad Loi ve'Echad LeDavid Divrei Rabbi Akiva, Amal Rabbi Yosy, Akiva, Ad Masai Ata Oisa Shechina Chayil. How could you do that? How could you put the Shechina down and put him on the same Madrega as David HaMelech, that they're both sitting in a chair together? Ella Echad Ledin ve'Echad LeTzedakah. There's a Kisei Din and there's a Kisei Rachim. Did Rabbi Akiva accept this shot? Tashma Adatanya Echad Ledin ve'Echad LeTzedakah in Rabbi Akiva. So clearly he did accept that shot, but he still got attacked. Amalei Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Akiva, Malach Eitzel Agada. What's up is you're dashing Musi the Agadata. Go back to the heavy duty Mesechtes. Kalach Eitzel Negoyim va'Oilos, where you have the Tifa Halacha, and don't get involved in Darshonas. In other words, I don't like your pshat. And Rabbi Elazar said, Al Echad Lekisei ve'Echad L'Sraf Sraf. One is the chair of Hashem and one was his footstool. Kisei Leishev Elav, Sraf Raf L'Adam Raglav. Now, first we say, one is the Kisei ve'Echad L'Sraf, and one is how he projects it to the world. Amar Nachman, Haiman de Yoda Ladur Laminim Karav Idis. If someone is so good in his information that he could tell off and disprove and refute the minim like Idis, Lihader, he should answer. If not, better you shouldn't engage at all. Amar Huminu Larbidis. So now the Gemara tells us how sharp Rabidis was. So Amin told Rabidis, Ksiv Vel Moshe Amar Alei El Hashem. Alei El Hashem means go to a third party. Alei Elai Mi Boile. Shouldn't Hashem said, "Come to me"? Amalei. So so what was it? Idis answered, "Zeu Matatrein." This was the Malach Matatrein. Sheshmoi Kashem Rabbi. He is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's closest Malach, the highest Malach, and he has the same name. Dichsiv Kishmi B'Kirba. So the Min says if he's up there with Hashem, Yachinif L'Chulei. So let's serve Matatrein. Dr. Mark Siv, the pasuk says, when it's referring to the Malach, as Al Tomer Boy. Don't rebel on him, and the Darshman Al Timireni Boy. Don't confuse me with the Malach. I'm the God, not the Malach. And Cain, Lo Yisa Lifishachem Lama Li. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu say that the Malach will not forgive you? Amar Lei. So it is answered back, Him Nusa B'Yada. there is a known fact amongst Klal Yisrael. We refused to, not only can't he be Moichel or Averis, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can be Moichel or Averis, but we refuse to use him even as a messenger between us and the Rebbeinu Shalom. We don't want to have any messengers. We reject Metatron. We don't want. We only want to speak directly to the Rebbeinu Shalom. We don't want to go through the Shliach Metatron. Let's see the full pasuk. This is by Kabbalah Zayra. It's quoted here in Chav Dalet. Don't take us out of here if we can't go with your Rebbeinu Shalom. Omerlei, Ahumini Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy. Amin told Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy, Siv Hashem Himter al Sadaim, Yalamoira, Gofris ve'esh me'es Hashem. Again, it sounds like it's from a third party. It should say Me'itaymi Boile. Omerlei, Ahu Koives. So before Rabbi Shmuel answered, a washer, someone who washed laundry for a living, he said, Shafke, ignore him, Anom Adranale. Allow me to refute this min. The Chesiv, it says in the pasuk, Vayomer Lamech Lenosha. Lamech told his wives. Who were his wives? Oda v'Tzila. And he said, Sheman Koili, listen to me, Nishei Lamech. Why is he saying Nishei Lamech? Why is he speaking about himself in third party? No Shaimi Boile. He should have said, listen to me, my wives. Ella Mishtoi Koyachi. That's how the pasuk speaks. Sometimes you find that people refer to themselves in third party, in third person. So it's not a kasha at all. If you would know how Chumash works, you would see it's not a problem at all.
Yosy, I don't think that. I think pshat is, if we're looking for pshat, that's how the people spoke at the time, and the Torah is being true to what he said.
Aha. So the Torah, means not that the Torah speaks that way. The Torah is quoting exactly what he said. That's exactly
right.
What he said, because that's how people spoke. But that wouldn't answer the min, because the Rebbeinu spoke that way also.
No,
unless the Rebbeinu spoke that way to mirror how people speak.
The Rebbeinu Shalom always speaks in that way. It's a special way of speech, and Nevi'im spoke that way. And if you have a klolos and brachas, all of those things are a special style of speech that the earliest people spoke, and under certain circumstances, it continues to be spoken. Like the teichachas are spoken in that way. It's a style of speech,
and it's all mirrored on how they spoke all the way to the beginning of times.
That's right.
Okay, Omer lei minohalach. So the min asked, how do you know that this is the way of speech? So he said, Ha mi piked Reb Meir shmilei. I learned this because Reb Meir said it over in his drushes. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, ki havadarish Reb Meir b'perkei. When Reb Meir would darshan in his shiurim, havadarish tilsa. A third was drasha, shemaitza tilsa, and lomdus was a third, and a gadat tilsa, and the third was a gadat. I didn't read it. Kavadarish, it was Kavadarish Tilsa Shmaitza, Tilsa Gadda, and Tilsa Moslis. I'm sorry. It was whenever he spoke, it was Tilsa Shmaitza. A third was Lumbus. Tilsa Gadda, a third was Agadata, and that's when he taught us about the speech thing. And Tilsa Mosli, a third were Mesholim. Gimel Meos Mesholim Shu'olim Hayuloi Rameir. Rameir had 300 Mesholim regarding foxes. Vanu Elanu Ella Sholosh. We have only 3 Mesholim regarding a fox. And there's 3 cute Mesholim that he shared. First of all, Avos Yoichlu Boiser. The fathers ate the unripened fruit, which are hard on the teeth, but their teeth didn't suffer. The Shine Banim Tekena. The teeth of the children fell out. And Rashi tells us that it's referring to a mushal where a fox outsmarted a zaev, a wolf. And he told the wolf, you know what? Why don't you go help? Go Erev Shabbos into a Jewish home and help with the cooking. I'm sure they'll give you some food. So what happens? The wolf goes in and they beat him to a pulp. So he comes back out and says, Fox, you fooled me because you told me to walk in there. You literally sent me into a trap. So he says, no, you don't understand. Your father went and they were very nice to him. And now you're getting hit for it. So that's what he told him. The other the mashal was moiznei tzedek, avnei tzedek. You have to have righteous scales. Tzaddik mitzora nechlatz. The tzaddik will get saved from the tzora, and will get beaten behind him. V'yovei rasha tachto. What was the case? There were two buckets over a well that were balanced with a rope. When one was up, the other one was down. So what happened was the zabe jumped into one bucket, and of course it got dragged all the way down because there was no weight in the other bucket. So he ended up down at the bottom of the water, and he made believe like he's eating and drinking, and not only that, looking down from the top, the zabe looking down. So the shul jumped into the bucket. The shul jumped into the bucket. The fox jumped into the bucket and was taken down to the bottom. And he's telling the zabe, "Oh, there's delicious food here. It's unbelievable. It's geschmack." And not only that, while the zabe was looking down from the top in the water, he saw the reflection of the light, which looked like a moon. So he said, "This isn't the moon. This is cheese." If you ever want to know where we got this from, that the moon is made out of cheese, it was right over here. The hereloi demus halavana b'mayim k'demus agol k'magvina gula. That was the first time that the nursery rhymes learned that the moon is made out of cheese. So the Yeshua said, "Look, there's food here. There's cheese. There's geschmack." So the zav said, "I want some too." So the shul said, "No problem. Jump into the bucket that's up there," and it brought the zav down. But in the meantime, it brought the shul up, and he ran away, and he let the shul get stuck there in the well. So that's what it means. The tzaddik got saved. The Yavei Rasha Tachtov, and the zav ended up going down underneath him. So that these are the mishalim with the zav. Amalei Kaifer Rebbe Gamliel. It's already 10-7, so we better stop here. So better we will mamshich here tomorrow. Between tomorrow and Sunday, I want to learn 3 blot because I'm not going to be able to say sure on Monday. I'll be in transit. On Tuesday, we'll go back to regular time.
Shkoyach.
Go ahead, have an awesome day.
Thank you.
And you should only travel for simchas.
Amen. You too.
And everything's fine. Everything's fine over there. It was just